What's happening, weirdos? This is the incredible Dusty Slay, who has a new Netflix special out on Netflix. Great, good start. It's called Workin Man. Dusty is hilarious. I discovered him recently and immediately arranged to have him on the show. So if you don't know who he is, prepare to be delighted. If you know who he is, welcome to an incredible chat that I got to have with him. I'm so glad you guys are here. Not much to promote up top. PeteHolmes.com for tour dates. We just added Madison, Wisconsin. I think we got Milwaukee on there. I'm currently in Houston. There's a hurricane coming in. Hoping to not be stuck in Houston. So I'll keep you updated on that. But also, Largo. Largo-LA.com if you'd like to see me in Los Angeles. The next Largo date is on July 17th. So that's going to be super fun. In the meantime, enjoy this chat with the incredible, the hilarious Dusty Slay. I hope you get a kick out of it. Get into it. How's it looking? We're good? Well, I want that hot Steve Martin riff on there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Katie. I totally just whined. I've been hanging out with my daughter too much.
Well, I mean, that album, Let's Get Small, that when I started comedy, when I started stand-up, a buddy gave me 3 albums. He gave me a Mitch Hedberg, Strategic Grill Locations. He gave me this Steve Martin, Let's Get Small. And then he gave me a George Carlin album.
I'm not going to know it.
I don't know it that well either, but the other 2 was like... I don't know. I feel like it was my biggest influence, really, as a comedian.
Yes.
And I listen to that album now, and I hear stuff that I do. And it's not. I don't think people would listen to that and go, "Oh, that's what Dusty's doing." But I can listen and I go, "Oh, that's what I'm doing."
That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Meaning, I think you get something in there, like an influence in there, to the sub-perceptual level.
Yeah.
So it's in there, you're still benefiting from it, but you're not biting them. But you're in. But if you watch that doc, it cuts, and he's an executive producer on it, which is always, funny to me when it's a documentary about you and you know that this person had say over it.
Oh, yeah.
But in this way, it's kind of cool because it intercuts between like Jack Benny doing a bit and then Steve Martin doing the same kind of bit. In the same way you could do that with The Simpsons, you could do that with Steve Martin and me.
Oh, yeah.
But it's doing it very like unapologetically. It's also doing it with like patter from magic routines that were on TV, and then it shows Steve doing them. So everybody's like doing their influences.
Oh, yeah.
Including him.
Yeah, I love that. Like I was listening now, like when he goes, "We're having some fun now, folks."
That's you guys pumped. That's what I said to you when I opened the door.
Yeah, or we're having a good time. I mean, that's what I'm doing in a sense, and I didn't even really realize it till I went back and listened. And then stuff that he does, he's like, "All right, let's get started." He's 20 minutes into the album, and he's like, all that sort of stuff. That's just kind of like silly. It's like, obviously we want to take the job of telling jokes seriously and write good jokes, but like overall we are just like telling jokes.
And it's funny to make fun of what you're doing.
Yeah, because it's pretty ridiculous.
It is. I'm going to throw this to you.
Okay.
I'm in New York. I know you were in New York for a time.
I did a month.
Oh, really?
I didn't move there and then go, I'm not going to be here. I rented an apartment for a month that my friend was living in. I said, I just want to experience it a little bit and see if I want to move there. And he talked his landlord into letting me rent for 1 month.
Mm. And then you taught him why you don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I loved it. And I almost moved, but then I decided not to.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Instead. Not for like a job, just for
Yeah, I had just talked to someone, and I talked to actually Keith Alberstadt, and he shared that he's from Nashville, and what he did. He learned to work the road from Nashville, where he had all these clubs and just a few hours around you, and then he moved to New York.
Chicago's
later.
like that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I almost moved to Chicago at one point too, but I like Nashville. I like country music, and I'm like, so it was great. But anyway, I don't want to go off on that tangent because you were going to talk about New York.
No. I liked that you went with it because this is your time. And let me say, I think you're so funny.
Well, thank you.
I threw on your album.
You too, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's really kind. I threw on your album not knowing sorry, but I'm going to plug it here. You have a new Netflix special.
Yes.
I haven't seen, but I'm going to watch for pleasure, which is the
Okay,
greatest
awesome.
compliment.
Yeah,
You know what I
yes,
mean? Like,
absolutely.
Not to research you, but like I put on the album and I was just laughing. This is so stupid what I'm about to say. I'm just saying, and I was just laughing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But like, you know.
I do know.
Sometimes you put them on and you're kind of appreciating or you're respecting, and I was both appreciating and respecting, but I was also just straight up laughing within, 12 seconds of you starting.
All right.
And I really like your vibe very, very much. And I like your style. And I know, did you come up with Nate? The only thing that I like that you and Nate have in common is it's a space that's unrushed and kind of nice to hang out in. So I'm not trying to compare you to Nate as much as I'm saying, like, I like Nate for the same reason in this one regard, which is I'm like, this is a porch swing and I'm relaxed.
Oh, yeah. Well, we didn't come up together at all. I mean, I met Nate when I moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
But
I came up with Nate, so I know you didn't come up with Nate. But I'm wondering, like, when you crossed paths.
I moved to Nashville in 2014. The very first open mic I went to, the day I moved there, Nate, and it was this really dumpy open mic, and Nate was there. And he wasn't there as...
This is Nate Bargatze, by the way.
Yeah.
I realized we never said.
He's not there like, I'm still coming up in the... It was a big deal to me. I was like, oh, man, Nate Bargatze's here. I was like, so...
He was just working out an open mic?
Yeah, he was just... I mean, he probably knew everyone there. And, he was just hanging out, did a spot, and I was like, all right, I think I made the right choice moving to Nashville.
That's so cool. I like what's happening to the world, meaning it used to be L.A., New York. Even Chicago was like, what? A little bit.
Yeah.
And now it's like there's all these little hubs. You meet a comic and they're like, yeah, I'm based out of Orlando. And we're putting down roots.
Yeah, it's so great because I'm able to, I live in Nashville and I like country music, so I'm able to do stuff like the Grand Ole Opry and the Ryman and do these sort of things, and then also like work the road all the time. Our airport is getting better. I mean, I still connect. I'm still 2 flights almost everywhere I go.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just get to, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and I get to live a pretty normal life. But every weekend I get to go on the road, and now I'm doing theater. So it's like, it's cool. I get to do this thing. And I don't think of myself this way. When I used to open for people doing the same size theaters that I'm doing now, I would think, oh, man, these guys are famous. This is cool.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing it, and I don't feel like that about myself. I'm just like, this is great. I'm pumped people are coming to these shows.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And I feel like I started comedy in Charleston, South Carolina, and we didn't really have a comedy club at all. So I started doing improv first. So we had these improv theaters, and then we had these really nice theaters in downtown Charleston that we would do. Of course, they wouldn't be sold out, but they would.
Oh, you'd put on shows there.
Yeah, but they would open these nice theaters to us. And so I learned to do comedy in these kind of spaces.
Oh, it's like a return to form for you.
Yeah. Because then I started working the road, and I'm like, oh, the club is different. The club was harder to me.
Oh, of course it is. In fact, I'm not trying to disparage club comedy by any means. I just looked up and saw Gary Gulman's book over there. And I think of Gary, and to me, Gary is a guy who wrote his act to be done in a theater.
Yes.
Like, it makes sense in a theater. And there are a lot of guys that I respect and admire who are best in a knife fight. Like, that's their best.
Yeah.
That's the best way to see them. And I actually, just to make this podcast real hard right now, I'm almost like, is it like a self-love issue? Like, I belong in the basement, and like,
yeah.
Did Gary get like more firmly attached as a child that he's like, no, I want to be at the Grand Ole Opry? Like, I don't know. But like, for me, I was like, I don't want to be in a saloon. I hate it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The first time I did a club, I remember doing a contest at the Charlotte Comedy Zone, which is a club I would end up liking. But I was in there, and I remember texting my friend that I hate comedy clubs.
Yeah.
And I'd never really done it, but it did feel like more of an aggressive environment.
It is.
Now I would
and they liked it. I'm sorry, how old are you? You know what I'm talking about. Like, there were places that liked it.
Oh,
they
yeah.
Almost like a carny culture. They relished that it was like, welcome to the jungle, motherfucker. And you're like, why is this comedy?
I always thought that too. Like when the audience feels like that, it's like, I'm just here to tell you jokes and try to bring you joy.
I say it on stage. I said it, I did a show 2 nights ago. And I was doing some jokes and I just felt them pull away and I was like, we're on the same side.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to have a good time. You want to have a good time. Like, I feel like the United Nations ambassador, like talking to the audience, being like, we have the exact same goal. Why, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, why was comedy like, you think you can make my girlfriend's boobs jiggle? Like, it was like threatening or something. Bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting in like mid to late 2000s is when I started, messing around with comedy. So I think I missed some of that.
Yeah.
But it was still like...
you got the echoes of it.
Yeah. And I learned to do, for the next 10 years, I would do comedy in clubs all the time with an occasional theater, but I would do comedy in clubs all the time. And I'm like, I learned to do it and I learned to like it so much that I even talked to my agent and I was like, I don't know if I want to do theaters. And then I did like one good theater and I was like, oh, I don't know why I ever said that.
Yeah.
This is so much better.
Well, I think because there's a certain survival, I don't know. I'm pretty black and white. You get in the clubs, you learn how to do it. You're like, this is good. Maybe you need to be nudged the other way.
Yeah.
But I had something that, where did it go I was just so surprised that you said that.
Well, I just did a club in Panama City, right? Brand new club, Panama City Beach, Florida. Brand new, really small. And I walk out and I'm like, and I've been doing theaters, I don't know, a few months now. And I was like, so I'm like already like I walk out and people are like right up on me. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is a little intense.
You mean when you left the show?
No.
Oh,
coming
when you
out
went
on stage, like everybody's so close. Whereas a theater, they're a little further out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I was making jokes and it was crushing. And I was like, all right, I mean, this vibe, everything that's happening, this vibe is good. But I'm like, I don't know. There is something about the theater where you just kind of come out. You're on this big stage. You. I don't know. It feels not. I feel like I'm writing faster in a theater.
Well, God, yes. I remember when I first started, I would study Seinfeld's albums, or I'm telling you for the last time or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to study this. And you don't realize, I've said this a million, but I'm saying it to you. I'd love to hear your response. Is like, you realize you're studying a theater act, and he'd go, "What's up with the cab drivers in the BO?" And there's this huge laugh. And you go to a regular show and you say, "What's up with the cab drivers in the BO?" You might get like I'm not saying it's not funny.
Right.
I'm just saying it's different. They've been primed. There was an opener. Everyone's dressed up. It was a $70 ticket. They're like ready to go. And you're a celebrity. So like when you say I'm right, like when I hear, Nate, Rory and I are closer than Nate and I, and Rory Scovel will tell me that Nate's like, oh man, I have a tour coming up in 4 months and I don't have anything. I'm like, I'm not disparaging anybody, but I'm like, once you have a fan base and you're in a theater, I think you can write a lot faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They know you, they like you, and like get into it. Like jump in.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like I got this new hour I've been doing and it's going so great. And I do like a Brad Paisley charity show at in Nashville the other day, and it's like, now I know it's kind of it's got a bit of a corporate vibe because it's a charity show. It's not my fans, but I go out and I'm doing these jokes, and I'm like, wow, this is not the same. This is not going as well.
Well, that's the risk.
Yeah,
I think the ones that are truly incredible, will augment or mix it up by going into a club, because I wasn't in a theater, but it was all my fans in Florida, and I was doing this joke, and it was about fake boobs, and it was funny, but it was like there were a lot of things going on. One, it's the first thing I'm saying. They're excited to see me, and I'm jumping into fake boobs. Two, it's Florida. There's a lot of fake boobs.
Yeah.
Like, no part of me was like, and now I'm at the Comedy Store. I'm going to do that fake boob stuff. I'm like, it's different. It's a birthday party. You know what it is? I've said this a lot, too, but stand-up is like you're arriving late to a dinner party, and you're the friend everyone was waiting for. So, like, if you see that situation in real life, a dinner party, and someone arrives late, everyone looks at them, and then if they can say anything, they can just go, "Who knew there'd be traffic in L.A.?"
Right.
Huge laugh.
Yeah.
Huge laugh.
Yeah.
It's like a welcome laugh. So there are all these things can throw it off, and a lot of the worst comics, or a lot of the comics that I know that nosedive, it's because they just do theaters. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They just perform for their fans, and they just do theaters, and then they die. They die on the vine.
And that's why it is good to mix it up and do all sorts of rooms so you know that you can still do it, because it is, I mean, I see that with people. I've seen people where I see them in front of their audience and it is just
murder.
Unbelievable. And then on a stage, it's just like, on a stage of not their audience, it doesn't look good at all. You're like,
meet
wow.
and greet comedy.
Yeah, you're like, are these new jokes?
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
The nicest way to say they're not doing well.
Yeah.
Are these new jokes?
Yeah.
Like, that's such a subtle burn.
But
Try out new stuff, huh?
But even like, because even the road versus New York City, it's like, I remember I was doing the Tonight Show for the second time, and I had these jokes that I was doing. I was opening with these jokes. They were really crushing, and I was so happy because I was like, this is going to be really good. And I'm at the stand practicing my 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the joke, and there's this guy in the front row, and he's like, he keeps looking at me like, what is this? He's looking behind him to see if other people are like, what's going on here? How'd this guy get this gig?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, this is my best 5 right now.
Okay. You're bringing so much up for me. I remember opening for Jim Gaffigan when I was in my first 5 years of comedy. And I was like, Jim Gaffigan at that point had been on Letterman 11 times or something like that. And I was like, that means he could do an hour that's just Letterman sets.
Oh, yeah.
He could do 55 minutes of back-to-back Letterman spots. And then in my naivete, I was like, that would be a perfect set of stand-up. Like, it would be an undeniable, can't miss hour. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true at all. Exactly what you did. You're on there doing. It's such a weird skill that all different types of performers probably have to develop, which is like, I'm doing this, it's not going to do that well, but when I get there, it'll do well. You know what I mean? Same with your new faces or whatever. You're working it out at the comic strip and it fucking sucks. But you're like, they're going to love it when it's a showcase for that.
Yeah, I mean, the last Tonight Show that I did, it was, I went to the Cellar.
Yeah, how did that one go, by the way, that you were working out and the guy at the stand hated you?
You know, I thought it was really good, but it's still my lowest viewed.
Oh, really?
My lowest view. It was really good, and I love those jokes. It's just hotel jokes, and I think that was part of it. It's like on the road or any touristy city, people love it because they're all in hotels.
Yeah.
But like in New York, I don't know, maybe it felt... That's always my thing. When I go to New York or LA and I'm doing comedy, I'm like, I work the road so much, I'm always like, is this hacky? Is this hack? That's always what I'm thinking. But whereas when I was first starting comedy, it was all like too hipster, if you will, where I started working the road, it wasn't getting any laughs. That's why I started wearing this hat. It was a kind of a joke at first. Not just this hat in particular, but a hat.
Yeah.
I just was like, one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear this hat on stage as like a joke. And then I went up and I just felt like I almost came alive in a way. Like it felt like people they now believed my trailer park jokes, where it felt like maybe they thought I was making it up
Well,
before.
take the hat off for a second.
But it's like, when I don't.
Yeah, I live in a trailer park and I don't really...
Yeah, and my hair wasn't long. When I first started those jokes, my hair wasn't long, and then so I made up hat jokes where I take the hat off. You think you're like,
I heard those.
And it's like, and it's weird. And I just started wearing the hat, and it just felt like everything came together. I did a Laughing Skull Festival 2 years in a row, no hat. I got nothing, no attention. I wear it the third year. I'm wearing the hat. I get invited to do Just for Laughs Montreal.
Yes.
And then from Just for Laughs, I get the Tonight Show. And I'm like, oh, this hat's really bringing it together.
Dusty, I'm going to say something that's embarrassing. But when your publicist or whoever pitched you for the show sent you, I'm reading it, and then I saw your picture with the hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was part of me that's like, I got to check out whoever's wearing that hat. I got to check them out. Then I watched your clips and stuff, and this is how I found out about you, and I loved it. So it was mostly the second. But what got me through the door, even all these years of not judging books by covers and being blown away and surprised by comedians, I'm embarrassed to admit that your hat worked on me too.
Well, I'm actually happy to hear you say it, because I remember people telling me when I was making jokes about it, when this first started happening, they were like, I think you're giving the hat too much credit. And I'm like, I don't know. This is my experience. This is what I'm seeing happening. Like I was in Indianapolis at Crackers Comedy Club the first time I wore the hat on stage. And then I went out to Phoenix, Arizona. I had never been to Arizona. I used to have this thing where, like I always felt like once I got outside the South or the Midwest, people were going to hate me. They were going to be like, go back to the South, and I don't know why I had that in my head. It wasn't even things I said out loud, but I would think that. And I was in Phoenix at Stand Up Live, and I'm wearing the hat, and it was unbelievable what was happening.
And you saw you're like Jim Carrey in The Mask, basically.
Yeah.
You're the hat.
Yes.
Somebody stop me.
Yeah. And I even ran out of CDs that I was selling, so I started burning them. I had a laptop that could burn CDs, so I was burning my own CD and then putting a little picture of myself with the hat and people, they were buying these homemade CDs
well, even that's kind of on brand.
Yeah.
It's like he burned these in his trailer or whatever. Like it feels right. It feels right.
And I was like, well, this is great. And it's like, so it was my way of breaking into the road.
Yeah.
And I was already doing the road some, but felt like when I started wearing the hat, I know, the hat, I know. And it's not even this hat. It's
but it's so funny. It's so funny. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
You found the hat.
I know.
And then you put it on and everything changed.
I know. I'm afraid to not wear the hat now. And I was wearing a white hat. I know.
You never say it. You always say the hat. Because you know what's funny. You know it's funny to say the hat.
And I thought it was a white hat that was doing it, right? I'd wear all black and only a white hat. And then I recently, the last Tonight Show I did, I wore a black hat. And no one noticed.
Yes. Turns out it wasn't the hat.
No one was like, I don't know. I still am afraid to not wear a hat.
Oh, a hat. No, there's those Mormon, there was a Mormon cult where they had all the women wear their hair in a certain way, and there was a theory about it, how it made the head a pleasant shape. It was like a goodly, very Book of Mormon, like a goodly shaped head or something. That's not in the Book of Mormon, but it was this one guy's preference. There's something that is complete about your head shape.
Well, it makes me a little taller.
Makes you a little taller. It's also funny because you're wearing it kind of on your head.
Yeah, it's got to be worn like that, and it's got to be a high riding hat, a little bit of a square to it, a little boxy.
Yes.
People give me hats all the time, and they'll be cool hats, and I'm like, the cool hat doesn't work for me.
Yes.
It needs to be an old man hat.
Well, look, I used to hate this, that the gatekeepers of comedy, your Montreals and whatnot, wanted to know. They wanted to know you, to tell us who you are, right?
Right.
And the hat really is indicative of you going like, there's who I am, and there's how they see me, and this is my compromise. I'm going to meet them halfway and put on this hat. Because you're saying the hat wasn't written on your soul to wear, but you noticed that the audience recognized you in the very same way that I noticed that if I leaned into the fact that I look like a youth pastor, that I'm like a dorky dad, all of that stuff, that was them telling me, that's what you are. And then I was like, all right. And then it kind of doesn't matter. Once you're wearing the hat, they're like, he's at the party.
Right.
He's at the George Costanza hot model party. And now you can just be yourself. Does that resonate?
Yeah. I mean, the amazing thing is now when I take meetings, I go to meetings to these, these networks that I, just watched from my trailer as a kid all the time. Now I go to Fox Studios and everybody's sitting at a table. They're all wearing suits, and I'm wearing a hat. And I'm like, this is great.
And they love it.
And they love it. That's like Montreal. I feel like I started my set with a Home Depot suicide joke, and I think And it just crushed. And I just think people in the audience, they didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
When I walked out on stage, and I feel like, and I like Larry the Cable Guy, so I don't mean this in a negative way, but I feel like people think I'm going to be Larry the Cable Guy, and the people that like that, they're like excited about it, end up being disappointed about my comedy.
Oh, interesting.
And the people that are like bummed that I'm going to be that are like pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Like I opened for Larry the Cable Guy not long ago at a casino in Oklahoma, and I had a great time hanging with him, but it did not go that great.
When he told you the show times, was he like between 12 and 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday? Or did you have a firm... I mean, is that hack? Is that Larry the Cable Guy hack?
I don't know. But, you know, I almost think I'm more redneck than Larry the Cable Guy. I mean, he asked me to golf. People always invite me to golf, and I don't golf at all. I'm not into it.
Yeah. I don't golf, but I wouldn't ask you to golf, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah, people. I had a guy, my guy I have my insurance with, said the other day, said he got me on the phone, said he was a fan, and it said his son's a golf pro and wants to take me golfing, and I'm like, well, I was like, that would be my first time ever golfing, so I'm afraid that would be pretty embarrassing for everybody. He
doesn't call you.
Yeah.
What was it like opening for Larry the Cable Guy?
Well, I was preparing for my special. So again, it was like that Tonight Show scenario where I'm like, all right, I'm going to work on this part.
Wait, you did it recently then?
I recorded the special in May of last year. It just, the whole process took a long time to happen.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a Netflix special initially. I just filmed a special.
I see.
And then my management sold it to Netflix. So it's like we had to film it, and then we had to edit it, and then they sell it, and then we get a release date.
Yeah, I see.
So it was probably May of last year when I opened for him. And, you know, it just was like a casino in Oklahoma, and they were just pumped to see Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, you didn't like tour with them. You did one show.
No, I did one show, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they were just pumped to see Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would have liked anybody.
They didn't like you.
Maybe that's what I tell myself. I got laughs. You know, I got laughs. But
I just assumed you did fantastic.
I thought so, too. I thought this is going to be a dream come true, and I'm going to walk out.
I would have thought that would be, I mean, maybe I'm having there's some sort of like condescension here, that I'm like, you're Southern, you're funny, they're juiced, they're happy, Larry's going to be out soon, they're probably going to give it up. But also casino... I don't know.
Yeah, and that could be it too. Sure. And we hung out. We had a great time. And he went out on stage. He goes, "How funny was Dusty?" And I'm thinking, I don't know if he listened to my set here. Yeah. They still cheered, and it was fun. Yeah. Everybody was great. But, and then we hung out and had a great time. Had cigars out by the pool, and the security guard came to kick us out. We were hanging by the pool. Yeah. And then Larry the Cable Guy like turned it on. Did he doesn't really talk much different than
yeah.
But he really turned it on, and the security guy was like, "Oh gosh, I had no idea." He goes, "Stay as long as you want," and they were. Yeah.
Who you kicking out?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And and the guy was like, "Let's get some pictures," and then it was like,
"Oh, that's fantastic."
Yeah.
Because I saw somewhere that you're a big Foxworthy guy, and the reason I'm bringing this up in the spirit of, I feel this way about Ron White too a little bit, and maybe even Bill Engvall. I don't know Bill, and maybe Larry. I don't know. Is that was such a phenomenon? I'm going to load you with this idea. You tell me if it's right. That movement, especially Jeff having "you might be a redneck if," maybe eclipsed that he's a great comedian. Is that how you feel?
Yeah.
Very leading question.
I would say that is true in a lot of ways, because I think Jeff Foxworthy's first two albums are like some of the best comedy albums out there. And maybe, maybe I believe that because I relate to it so much. I mean, I was living in a trailer in middle school when "You Might Be a Redneck" came out. And I was like, I had never heard someone like speak to me in that way. Like he was like words like "yont to" and "all right" that they were doing. I mean, these were words we were really using, and we had never heard anybody like
represent.
Yeah, or even say it in a way to point it out that is what we were saying.
Yeah. Well, validate your existence.
Yeah. And I was like, this is great. And then his first two are really good. I still listen to them sometimes.
What's "yont to" mean? Gonna?
Like, do you want to do this?
"Yont to"?
"Yont to"?
You want to?
Yeah, you know.
That one's pretty easy to get. What was the other one?
You know, it's just like you know.
Oh yeah.
The joke was, "Jeet yet? No, Jew. You want to? You know, that's the conversation. You know."
Yeah, that's pretty intuitive.
Yeah,
that's not that out there.
Yeah, and it's like so much of that first album, it's really not even about You Might Be a Redneck. I mean, It's more about, you know, Jeff Foxworthy's life. And I think it's really fun. And then it's like the blue collar comedy thing came around. And then suddenly, I mean, you know, that was a huge phenomenon. All great. But it was like, oh, now these are redneck comedians.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when I saw Ron White at the Chicago Comedy Fest, I was all, remember when you're new at comedy and really the only way you can affirm your own ego is having like extreme taste, like Carrot Top sucks or the redneck comedy guys suck. Like you've never even seen it, but you're just like, it's not us, you know?
Right.
You're just looking for any validation whatsoever. And that was embarrassingly, that was my opinion. And then Ron White went up and murdered hard at a bad show. It wasn't a good show that he murdered. He went up and turned the crowd and was incredible. And I was like, I'll never forget it. It really was like a humbling moment where I was like, oh, I need to shut the fuck up. I don't think I did for another 10 years because I was still too young and stupid. Yeah. But I was like, oh, these guys are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that moment with so many people on the road, like, you know, for lack of a better term, like no-name guys that probably will never really do anything with comedy. Oh, thank you.
You can't have that on yellow.
I don't know what it was, but I appreciate it.
It didn't squirm when I touched it, so we're good.
Okay.
I thought it might have been a little bug.
All right, that's okay. I'm staying at an Airbnb, and there's a pretty strung out lady in front of my Airbnb, and her dog tried to attack my sister. So, you know, who knows what's going on.
What?
Yeah,
like it lunged at your sister?
Well, the dog was very sweet, but the dog was big and kept jumping up. Yeah, it was fine. So who knows? This shirt's been laying in the Airbnb.
Okay. Yeah. I have a 111-pound dog. I was just talking to Katie about it. And I just did this bit for the first time this week where I go, I've never been in a fight in my life, but because I have a huge dog now that jumps up on me and like bites at me.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing, but he's still scary. I found out what I would say in a fight. And I'm not making this up. I pushed him and I went, find out. Find out, Dusty.
Find out's not bad, though.
Find out's a good, tough guy. I know. I actually know where I got it. It's from Gone Girl. No, Gone Baby Gone. Gone Baby Gone. Casey Affleck goes into a bar in Boston. He orders a martini, which feels a little hammy to me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel real. Like that character would know, don't order a martini.
Right. Yeah.
But they make fun of him. Then he gets in a bad, almost like a used guys can't leave situation. They're like going to lock the door. He has a gun, and as he's going out, he goes, "Find out, find out, I'll shoot you." And I use that on my dog.
Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, I like it. I like that.
Another time I did it, I went wrong guy.
Okay.
I said wrong guy to my dog. Like they're both.
Your dog's so confused by that one.
I thought you were my dad. Yeah, he doesn't understand either of those. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. We're talking about Billy, not Billy Engvall, but Jeff Foxworthy being an influence and
I mean, well,
and being on the road and seeing people and getting.
Oh yeah, well, I would just I would have this attitude too because I felt like I had these really smart jokes and I would go up and I would really crush for these rooms, and I would go, oh, yeah, this guy's not... Because, the mentality they try to beat into you on the road is like, you got to be so good that the headliner can't follow you in order for them to move you up to headline.
Oh, wow. And I've never heard it explained that way. But
that's what they... and I'm like, I'm not really trying to ruin the show like that. But I do want to be good to where the audience is thinking, oh, we like that first guy better. But I would think that, and I would go, oh, yeah, this guy's not going to be able to follow that. And then this guy would just go up and just really murder like a real pro.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man.
I'm fascinated with the nuance. What is a headliner?
Yeah.
Like I would love a documentary that just explores the subtle 5% difference between when you're a very, very good middle. But a guess to get the conversation going is like, there's just like an authority. There's something going on that's like, I know I can do this because they've done it hundreds of times or something.
Yeah, I think that is it. When I first started headlining, I would be in this crisis all the time where I would like that feature. I stopped watching the feature for a long time. I was like, I just don't need to know how they did.
Yeah.
I don't need to know if they bombed.
Now you're Larry the Cable Guy. How funny was Dusty?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't need to know how it went out here. I just need to go up blind. And that helped me. And now I can do it. Now I can watch. And I usually take people that I know. But it's like, you know, I would watch these guys just crush on stage as the feature. And I'm like, all right, now I got to go do as good as they did or better. And I got to do longer, and I got to do check drop, and
Isn't it weird when I ask for the light as a headliner at the time that's my opener's entire set?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's just how comedy is structured. You're like, give me the light at 25. And I'm like, yikes. You almost can't think about it. It's the wrong way to think about it. The headliner isn't doing an hour. I've said this a million. He's doing as long, or they're doing as long as they want. They're doing the show.
Right.
It's no longer a matter. It's not as much a matter of minutes.
Well, that's like the moment I had enough time that I felt comfortable doing, because I had put out 2 albums before I was even headlining, and I like the albums. I'm fine with them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I didn't necessarily, like, especially my first album, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable.
Son of a Ditch?
I have an album called Making That Fudge, which is pre the hat.
PH. There's PH and it's also post age.
Yeah,
PH post age.
But yeah, well, I was in a bank one time and I heard this lady. She goes, "Lately, I've been making that fudge," and I thought she was because we were in a bank. I thought she was talking about making money. You know, like making that bread, making that cheese.
What did she mean?
Well, apparently she had been working at a fudge shop, so that is what she's doing now, is making that fudge.
That is so funny. You know why I love it? Is it really shines a light on something we all do as people, which is like, you're not seeing reality.
Yes.
You're building reality.
Yeah.
I'm in a bank. She said I've been making that fudge. You just assumed, well, this is a place of money.
Yeah, she's making a deposit, you know? She said, "Hey, I've been..."
She's like me. I'm here for money. She's here for money. She just calls it fudge.
Yeah.
It's very...
like, I've been making that fudge.
Oh, my God. Are you on something here? Are you saying something?
About making that fudge?
I didn't know if I was interrupting.
Oh, yeah. No,
I was going to ask something, but I didn't know if you were in the middle of something.
I don't know. I didn't intend on telling the making that fudge joke, but I...
Oh, you were saying before you started headlining, you had 2 albums.
Yeah, so, you know, but then the moment I had an hour, I'm like, I only want people opening to do 30 minutes. I'm doing an hour now.
I'm still laughing at making that fudge. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I realized I wore these red socks too. I don't know if your camera picks that up, but I feel weird about it.
In the wide?
I love these socks, but
you're doing it. I put on yellow socks to match my yellow shirt.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
We're both socking. I feel, and I know what kind of underwear I'm wearing. I'm wearing my green Lucky Clover underwear because this shit makes a difference. I'll take anything I can. I'll take anything that'll nudge the ball over the net.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a funny, silly pair of underwear, I don't give a shit. If it's red socks that are making you a little bit happier today.
Yeah. Sometimes it's underwear, sometimes it's the hat, you know? I mean, who knows? Am I right?
Honestly,
yeah.
This world is confusing. Wear the hat. So I think you were about to say the 2 records where you're pre-headlining, but you're doing a set.
Right.
Now you have your opener do 30 minutes.
30 minutes. And now in theaters, I'm down to 20.
Me too. I was just going to say, make that 20.
Because I'm doing...
That's the privilege.
Yes.
You go like 20.
I did it. Yeah. I did a show.
I don't want to wait. When you start, you have to wait 45 minutes. That's an MC 15, middle 30. You're watching a show for 45 minutes. That's like torture to me.
Yes.
Let's go.
That's what I'm saying.
I would rather, if you want 2 other comics to do 15 and 30, let me go first.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that. Yeah, I'll do an hour, then the MC, then the middle.
Yeah.
Because I can't watch a show.
Bring the MC out during check drop.
There
he comes
you
out,
go.
He does check drop, then let's get your feature out here.
That's a funny idea. Oh, they drop the checks and you just stop mid-joke and another guy comes out.
Yeah.
And just kind of... Does all right.
Just kind of works it, goes, hey, fill out your comment cards, tip your wait
clubs
staff.
Stop with the check drop, please. Sometimes you're there. It's like the best club in the country. They're still doing a check drop. I'm
Yeah,
like,
there is some
"Can you
clubs
stop?"
that don't do the check drop.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
More and more. Is it really such laborious certified personal accountant work that we need to like get a jump on it during the show?
Yeah, and give us. Yeah, I hate it.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I hate it when I can see the front row and like they're into it. Like they're all looking at me. I'm telling a joke, and then the waiter comes over and goes, "Hey, you wanna?" And then they just
Here's what
they're
you
gone.
do. Make the gratuity automatic. Cards at the top. Order whatever you want. It'll close out automatically. It's the internet age, guys.
That's true.
Why are clubs still like shunk, shunk, like closing it out with the print? Get out of here.
Yeah, I was at a club recently that the machines that they brought out to people beeped.
Oh, yeah.
It would go
No,
beep,
I've had that.
beep, beep. And I was making jokes. I was like, somebody's heart monitor's going off or something.
I think I was at that club.
Yeah.
I don't know what club it is, but I know I was at a club where I was like, and I think I mentioned, and they were like, you're the only one that said that. I'm like, I'm the only comedian that noticed an absurd incongruity with your be quiet during the show policy. And the last time, where was I? Oh, it was at the store. They were like, the last time I told someone to be quiet, another server told me this. They were like, that's one of our servers, and they're really loud. And you like told them to be quiet.
Well, it is.
It was
weird.
you. The call's coming from inside the house.
It is weird when you're like, who's that talking? And then you look down and it's somebody that works there.
Or it's another comic.
Yeah.
It's good when it's another comic because
Yeah.
then you can just tear them down.
Yeah.
All right. Let me switch gears a little. When you started, I was very interested in this. You started comedy, you did a few times, and then you stopped.
Yes.
Tell me everything.
Well, in 2003 or 4, I moved to Charleston and I started doing improv. And I just was like, I didn't have any friends. I moved there with another guy. He brought his girlfriend up. We're still friends. But at the time, I was like in this new city with no friends. So I started taking improv and I was like, oh, this is really fun. And I started to meet some people. And this guy was like, you should try stand up. So we wrote some jokes.
Why did he say that to you? Because he wanted to try it and he wanted a friend, or did he like notice you were more cerebral?
Yeah, I think there was the second part, and I think that he was, they were trying to start some kind of stand-up scene, so there were a few other people doing it. And so he helped me write some jokes. And this was, like I say, 2003 or 4, and we were really going for a character. I was wearing overalls, and I was doing no shoes.
Like Punch-Out.
Yeah.
Like the bumpkin character. Is bumpkin offensive?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think I'm going to trust you. The sort of bumpkin character in Punch-Out.
I mean, maybe it is to someone, but there's a...
I like it rhymes with pumpkin.
There's a great song, Country Bumpkin. Yeah, and it's really
good.
Great.
I feel like there's
Cal
a couple...
Smith, I think, is the guy. Yeah, it's a great song.
There's a few regional words for people.
Yeah.
Like townie in Charlestown or like certain parts of Boston. That's okay. They're not disparaging. That's what I'm hoping for bumpkin.
Yeah, I think it's okay. But I was really doing this thing where I was like,
overall snowshoes.
I was like, how y'all doing? That sort of thing. I go out. That's how I opened, and I was really trying to work this angle. I was like 21. I didn't know what I was doing.
You were playing the hand.
Yes. And it was like, and it went okay. Like the first few times I did it, I was like, oh, this is pretty fun.
The way I'm relating is if I started in like the Def Jam circuit and I went on stage and went, hi, everybody. And they were like, yeah, corny white dude. You were like, I'll be the Southern guy.
Yeah, well, it's like I did a club in Columbia, South Carolina, which is, an urban room. And I was the only white comic on the lineup, and I did the overalls and no shoes. And it was hot. I mean, they loved it. I mean, they're probably laughing at me, but they loved it.
This episode is brought to us by our friends at Apollo. This is the Apollo Neuro. It is a piece of wearable technology that sends almost subperceptual vibrations into your nervous system, speaking directly to your body to help it calm down, to feel safe and in control. Basically, if I only had 5 seconds to explain what an Apollo is, it's like a wearable hug for your nervous system that is linked to your phone and has all sorts of different settings like energy and wake up. So it can speed your heart up and give you energy, so no caffeine needed. Social and open, which is the setting I usually have it on when I'm doing this podcast. Clear and focused, which has been proven in studies to ward off symptoms of ADD. Rebuild and recover, which is great after stress. Calm, which is awesome for meditation. Unwind, which you guys know Val and I call the try to stay asleep, because it basically lulls you to sleep. You can see kind of what it's like when you tap on your body and then you slow that tap down. Your body just starts to get the message, oh, I'm safe, it's time to be calm, it's time to relax. That's basically what the Apollo Neuro is doing, at least in my understanding. I do know for me and for Val, it works. It makes a huge difference. You can wear it on your wrist, like I do, or your ankle, which is what Val does. And my favorite setting is fall asleep because it lulls you to sleep. Apollo Neuro is not a crystal. It's not woo-woo. It was developed by a neuroscientist and a board-certified psychiatrist who have been studying the impacts of chronic stress in human beings for over 15 years. And the Apollo's effects on stress, sleep, cognitive performance, and recovery have been proven in multiple clinical trials and real-world studies. So you can get $40 off. Support your body, support your well-being, and support the show. Go to apolloneuro.com/weird and use promo code WEIRD. That's APOLLONEURO.com/weird. Use promo code WEIRD for $40 off. We're also brought to us by Ritual. I am currently traveling. As I said, I'm in Texas, and I always bring my Ritual Men's 1-a-day multivitamin. And it's not 1 a day, it's actually you take 2 a day. I don't know why I called it a 1 a day. But my Ritual multivitamin and my Symbiotic Plus, their pre, post, and probiotic that I swear by, I take every single day. So let me tell you, if supporting foundational health was a sport, you would want Ritual on your team. They made Essential for Men, a multivitamin that's based solely on science and designed to help fill common nutrient gaps in the diet with 10 key nutrients. I can say for me personally, before and after, I used to go to my doctor and they'd be like, you have these gaps. And after, I no longer have those gaps. According to the CDC, fewer men than women meet the minimum daily intake recommendations for fruit and vegetables, and men are more likely to overvalue exercise and undervalue nutrition. So enter Ritual to fix this problem, a multivitamin scientifically developed for men to help fill nutrient gaps in your diet. It is science-based, for men 18 plus with high quality and traceable key ingredients in clean bioavailable forms. Talking about those 10 key nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules, which means it's gentle on an empty stomach because I'm often fasting and I can take it and it doesn't upset my stomach, and it's actually absorbed in your lower intestine, so you're not just peeing it out. Often when I tell people about multivitamins, they go, what's the point? You just pee it out. The delayed release capsule takes care of all that, and it is gentle. So Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company you can trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/weird. This is a company you can actually trust. Ritual.com/weird. Start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/weird for 25% off. Support your body, support the show. I always remember Big Jay Ogerson told me when he was doing the black circuit in Philly, he was like, my closer was like, he had rip-off pants. Like, not every black comedy scene is this way, but this one was.
Yeah.
And he was real embarrassed. But I was like, look, man, make them laugh.
Well, that's it. I mean, you got to make people laugh how you can make them laugh.
Yeah, go for it. Take your shoes off, Dusty.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I mean, I walked out and they started laughing right away.
Yeah.
And then I just did my jokes and it was really good. The booker was like, oh, you got to come back.
Yeah.
But I was terrified. I was like, I don't know that I'm ever going to do that again. And I just didn't understand how comedy worked at all. Like I say, there was no club in Charleston, so I was doing it a little bit, and then I started drinking a lot before I would go on stage. And if I got heckled a couple of times and really kind of like yelled at some people because I was just insecure and I was a little drunk and I was
like bad yell, not funny.
One time I had one particular time. I don't remember what I said. This was, I don't know, close to 20 years ago. But I was just like, I got real mad at someone in the audience and. I was just like, I hate doing this. Why do I keep doing this to myself? So I just quit for several years. And it was 2008. The same friend talked me into doing comedy again. And I wrote this bit about letters of the alphabet where I just kind of like, the letters have human characteristics. It's pretty funny and creative. And I did this at the improv theater that we had. And it went great. I did it sober. It was so great. And I felt so good.
I can't do it for A. I can do it for like Y and W, X for sure. Z's got some too. But what do you got for A? And that's the first one.
Yeah. Well, my thing was more for the letters K and S. That K makes the K sound and S makes the S sound. And they're going along and life is good. And then one day the letter C joins the alphabet. And he's like, I can do both sounds. So he's like stealing work from them. And then other letters get involved, but I don't think we have an A really involved.
Oh, okay. I thought you took it from the top. Can I tell you my dumb alphabet?
Yeah.
W. It's the only letter named after its looking. And it's also, it's not a W, it's a double V.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Whataburger, nobody's drawn two U's. But it's double U. Like, what were they trying to wrap it up? They were getting tired of naming letters? It's double V. And then what I did was, like, you sing the alphabet song, you go, W, crisscrossing lowercase L's, V on top of a lowercase L, sideways N. Like, are we naming them? But I've never done it because it's too stupid.
I tried to write a joke about W.
You did not.
I did because I'm like, I was going through, I have a daughter now, and we were going through the alphabet, and I'm like, all the letters have one syllable.
Except.
And then you get to W? Like, why are you taking up so many syllables? I did the joke one time. It was complete silence. I said, we're having a good time, and I moved on. You know what I mean?
W.
Yeah.
I tried to do a riff. I did it on a show with the Momofuku cook, who immediately took it very literally and kind of defended that rice is delicious. But I was trying to say, where does rice get off being so undelicious and taking 2 hours to cook? I think that's a valid observation.
I think so. I like that.
He sort of misunderstood me, and he was like, rice is delicious. And I was like, no, I'm saying, where does it get off? It's fine.
It's fine.
It makes you work real hard.
Yeah, when you can fry a potato in 3 minutes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can put mustard on a piece of bread and you're like in Flavor Town.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking rice is like...
That is true.
Rice is the boring girlfriend that makes you pick her up 6 hours away. You have to drive 6 hours.
Beans, too. I got to soak you overnight.
I've never...
I got to start this tomorrow.
Yeah. And overnight oats? Have you ever tried them? Wasn't worth the overnight.
My wife loves overnight oats. I'm like, this seems disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Like cold
it's not
oatmeal?
overnight oats. It's like a book that evaporated in the rain.
Yeah, it's so bad.
If you're bringing the duration that it took to soak and mush it up into the name, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever been like 45-minute cookie.
Oh, yeah.
Just go right to cookie.
Yeah, and if it, yeah.
I feel vindicated. I'm glad you understood my rice premise.
I love rice, but you're right. I mean, I like rice. I put butter and salt
putting stuff in it.
or other
it's an
vegetables.
edible plate.
Yes.
It's little pasta.
A potato I can chop up, throw in a pan. It's done in 10 minutes.
And it's so good.
So good.
It's one of the kings of the foods.
Yeah.
French fries, king of the food,
It's
done
the
in
best.
14 seconds.
It's so
Rice
good.
is like, rice is like the enlightenment of foods. It's like you have to go in a cave.
Yeah, and maybe that's it, right? It's like, it's like ancient Chinese stuff that all ancient Chinese stuff is so wise.
Yes, it is a wise.
And then they're well known for rice. So they have the rice field. So it's like it feels
There's
like
a thickness
we're
to it.
mystical in some way eating the rice.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, you're right on. Okay, so then you quit, and then the same guy talked you into doing it. Who is this guy? This is going to be like a Beautiful Mind where we realize this guy isn't real.
Oh, that would be something. Huh?
Yeah.
And what's a guy named John Brennan, and he did improv in Charleston. He had a one-man show that he took. He made it to off-Broadway in New York City with this one-man show
No way.
called The Banana Monologues. It was a very funny one-man show, and now he I think runs an improv theater in Savannah, Georgia. But he talked me into doing improv again or stand-up again, and I just remember going home that night and being like, wow, that felt good. It felt good to do comedy. So I abandoned the overalls. I did stand up for my, I used to work at a seafood restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina called Hyman's Seafood. Hyman's, yeah, which I make a lot of jokes about. Located on the same block as a restaurant called Sticky Fingers. That is true. Sticky Fingers is gone now, but at the time it was there. But I did a...
Sticky Fingers didn't make it through COVID.
Yeah. But I did stand up at a couple of Christmas parties, but the last one I did, it was so bad. Like, people that I worked with were heckling me. I was in the overalls, and I was so embarrassed. I had never...
What do you mean people you worked with heckled you?
Well, they were just like, everybody was so drunk. Our Christmas parties were like, I don't know, if you've worked in a restaurant, you know that it's like everybody's just wasted all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody was so drunk. They had already given out all the awards, and now I'm to do comedy. And they were just like harassing me. These are my friends, but they were just harassing me. But it was like, I'm basically, I'm putting my, art, if you will, out and on display for everyone, and they're harassing me. I left out the back of the building after my set, and I climbed a fence so that I didn't have to go back through. And this was towards the end of the first period when I quit.
You left out the back and climbed a fence as to not go through the crowd?
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, I can't face people after.
Oh, my God. Can I just say I relate so hard that stand-up can be so painful that if you told me that you burrowed under the ground to like get to your car, I would be like, I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
I burrow.
Well, I was like, I just got to get out of here. I cannot.
Horrible.
It'll be fine tomorrow, but I got to get out of here tonight.
This is why I still don't like performing. When people text me like, we're coming to your show tonight. I've said this a million. Text me after the show.
Oh, yeah.
Text me, that was a great show. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to. It's the pilot is in the audience. Seinfeld.
Because if you bomb for strangers,
who cares?
That's no fun. But yeah, it's like,
gone.
Yeah,
at least it's gone. I'm gonna bomb, and then there's gonna be like fucking some guy I went to high school with who's gonna Facebook me after.
Yeah.
Hey, that was rough.
I mean, I
can beat it.
I do a pretty clean comedy, but at one point I had like I called them my lotion jokes. I
remember the lotion jokes.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were great.
Thank you.
And I like a spice. I like a little spice.
Well,
although I hadn't noticed you were clean up until that point, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of dirty. And that's when I recognized, oh, he hasn't been dirty this whole time. It's really cool.
Well, those jokes would go so great. And my dad actually saw the VHS joke one time. And
it's a great joke.
He saw it in the same room that he would later see, but the first time he saw it, the show was sold out. He couldn't. I was featuring. It wasn't my crowd, but he couldn't get in, but he was able to look in the back. He saw me do the joke. The joke crushed. He was like, I love it. A year later, I'm back at that same place. Now the whole joke is longer. I got a whole bit surrounding it. And he came, his wife, his cousin, and his wife, and people from their church. They all came, and for whatever reason that night, it just was nothing was hitting, nothing was going well. And then I get into the lotion jokes, and in my head, a lot of these times, these rooms that I would be doing, once I would get into something a little dirtier, it would turn.
Yeah, it would help.
So I thought, all right, I got those jokes coming up. This is going to be good. And it was longer than it even is on the album. And I start doing the joke, and it's just tanking. So
no, it didn't help?
No, it didn't help at all. So for like 5 or 6 minutes, I'm just doing these basically, jerk off jokes and in front of my family, and it's bombing. And my dad hated it. I think my dad wanted me to quit comedy at that point.
Oh no.
Not that it would have mattered if he did, but he didn't say anything that night, but like a week later, he basically yelled at me on the phone about being so dirty, and I'm like, well, it really wasn't that dirty. But
I hate this.
I know, I hated it too.
He yelled at you like, "Where do you get off talking about that stuff?"
Basically.
Like you're embarrassing me kind of thing?
Yeah, basically. And it wasn't until my dad saw me at the Grand Ole Opry that I think he...
I hate every part of this.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve you. That's how I feel. I'm
Well-
like, oh, and then you see me crush at the Grand Ole Opry, and now I'm hot.
Now, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah.
Fucking beat it.
Well, I agree.
Fucking beat it.
Well-
I can't handle this.
Well, I mean, I basically said so much at the time where I was like, it doesn't matter. I appreciate, I respect your opinion and I appreciate it, but I'm going to do whatever.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's heavy. Because as you're telling that story, I'm like, if it had been murdering, and this is like a sore subject for me.
Yeah.
Your dad probably would have liked it.
Well, I think so too. And I'm
He
not
didn't like that you were failing or like it wasn't working. And oh yeah, sorry.
And I'm not, and I'm not trying to drag my dad down here, but I
don't think we're dragging dads. I think we're talking about a very common phenomenon of like a certain conditionality.
But I think you're
conditional
right
thing.
though.
I can't stand it.
If those jokes had a crush that night,
Yeah.
I think it would have been like,
But also, Dusty, it's one of the best jokes I've heard in a very, very long time. I'm going to tell other people that joke. That's how I know I like it.
Thank
On
you.
stage at my show. I'm just kidding. No, but I'll like say it to Val tonight. But the joke is the worst part. Oh, you were like, I'm going to tell it to you.
Okay.
You're like, I'm feeling old because I watched an open mic comic recently, a younger comic talking about the first time he used porn. And he was saying how slow the download speeds were.
Yeah.
I was like, the first time I watched porn, the bad part wasn't the download speeds. It was rewinding the tape back to the part where my dad had left it.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant joke.
Yeah,
But the best part is the tag where you go, and the worst part of that is knowing where my dad stopped the tape and going like, oh, that's what you're into? That's a flying car of a joke. It's incredible.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So I'm offended for you as a son. I'm offended for you as a person, but I'm most offended for you as a comedian because I'm like, oh, so you watch some fucking jackals choke on my filet mignon and you side with the jackals? You see how worked up I am? I get real defensive.
But you're right, though. I mean, this was not some great comedy venue.
No.
It was, it's in Columbus, Georgia. It's a nice place, but it's a music venue normally, and they would do comedy, once a week on like a Wednesday. So it's like, this is not some great comedy audience.
Yeah.
This joke was working great for me.
Right.
But just this night.
It's also an opportunity to side with me.
Right.
Sometimes I'll be talking to a friend. It used to happen in relationships. It doesn't happen with Val. But I'm like, why are you siding with someone who's not even here? Like, I'm telling you a story and you're like on their side. Just side with me, even if I'm wrong. Just love me, even if it went badly. Just love me. It's a missed opportunity. I also understand, and maybe that's why I get so worked up because I could see myself like me with fucking Ron White. I can also be like your dad and be like, well, that stunk because the crowd stunk. And I wish we could all do a little bit better. Well,
it is hard. It's like, sometimes the club, like I'll set up my camera to film my set and they'll go, oh, we got a camera here. And then you let the club film your set and then you get it back and none of the audience is mic'd. So it's beautiful audio coming from it's like, but if no one's laughing, it looks like you're bombing.
Right.
No matter how good the joke is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if you can't.
No, you're making it with them.
Yes.
You're making it with them. It's heavy stuff. So your parents, your dad's a farmer?
My dad was an insurance salesman, but he lives on a farm. He was born in 1947. His dad built his house in 47. His dad died when he was 19. They sold the farm, him and his mom, and moved. And then 10 years later, the farm came back up for sale, and my dad bought it back and has lived there since.
He lives in the farm he grew up in?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And you go and visit him at that farm?
Yeah. He still lives there. Yeah, and I'd go visit sometimes. My parents were divorced, so I would live, I lived with my mom.
Yeah.
And then every other weekend I would go to my dad's.
And when you talk about your dad not liking a dirty joke, are they why you're clean? Do you have an understanding of why you're drawn to that?
I don't really know. I mean, I'm a religious guy, right? And I just... I don't know. I just don't. I don't really like being so dirty. I mean, there was a time in my life where I was drinking all the time, and I used to video myself. I had video cameras. I have video.
Wait, of you drinking?
Yeah.
You just letting loose?
Yeah, me and my buddies at a party, and I used to have the parties at my house. We pull out the video camera, and I have video of lots of people partying, and nothing crazy. We're just drinking and talking.
You're like Cat Williams.
yeah, exactly. and and I just would say all these I was just so filthy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
Don't you see I'm projecting onto you, but that's like repression, right? I mean, there can be I don't know how to let out my wickedness, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So when I was religious, I would like being drunk because I'm like, now I can be as wicked as I need to be.
Oh,
to
yeah.
kind of let some of those feelings out. Maybe they are anger or just sort of base stuff.
Well, I think for sure. I mean, just kind of the way I grew up. My parents were divorced when I was 2. I was back and forth, and I maybe was not as necessarily poor. I talk about being poor, but it was because my parents were divorced. If they were they both worked, right? So if my parents were married, we would have been fine. We were living in my dad's house that he grew up in. They both had incomes. We would have been doing great. But my mom had 2 kids from another marriage. I have my older sisters. So we're living in a trailer with 3 of us. My mom's working at a factory that makes VHS tapes, which at the time was a good job. And
Can you see them smoking cigars, the window overlooking the factory?
Yeah.
Nowhere to go but up, boys.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my mom talks about, it's kind of sad, they talk about, all her friends, they all thought they would retire from this company.
Yeah.
But, we've changed technologies 2 times since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so I just think that I had insecurity that I was dealing with. So then I moved to this other city, Charleston.
A poverty insecurity.
Yeah, I think, and maybe, I think divorce is very hard on kids.
Of course.
And it's and I don't even think I would have thought that growing up, but it's looking back, it's if you have 2 married parents that are healthy and being supportive, it's so much better for you.
Of course.
I mean, it seems.
By the way, wait, sorry.
It just seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But I think that divorce is so prevalent in a way now that
this is the whole thing. This is what being a grown-up is in my opinion. Looking back and going, "Whoa, that was actually harder than I thought it was."
Yeah.
I feel like we're trying to not be candy asses, and we're trying to be. And there's times for courage.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of courage that is required to go back and go shit, that must have been really hard on little Dusty or little Pete.
Yeah.
And that kind of courage is so underreported. And I'll even take it further and say there's a cowardice to not facing that and not looking at that and only moving forward and just being well, that's the past. It's you think that's gone? That shit is making every choice for you.
Yeah. I mean, even just I'm here I am at my mom's house. This is my life. I'm living here. And then every other weekend I go to a different house. Now it's my dad, but my dad's remarried. They have 2 kids there. It's my stepbrothers, who I got along with great. But it's I'm just being removed. It's I'm being removed from my house every other weekend to go to a place.
Right.
I just wash my hair with shampoo.
And I just wash my hair with Modern Mammals, which is why it doesn't look like a bale of hay you just took out of the microwave.
Hey.
Exactly. Modern Mammals washes your hair, but it leaves the natural oils you need for it to look perfect and in control.
Wait, but it's not a shampoo?
It's like a shampoo, but it's like a non-shampoo shampoo.
But it cleans your hair.
Like shampoo.
But not shampoo.
Because it won't dry it out.
Like a shampoo.
A non-shampoo shampoo that'll clean your hair like shampoo, but won't dry it out like shampoo. Shampoo. I think that's good. That's like our new slogan. Thank you.
It's probably too many words.
Modern Mammals, a non-shampoo shampoo that'll clean your hair like shampoo, but won't dry it out like shampoo. Shampoo.
That really scared me.
I have a lot of power here.
I can see that. Can you make me taller?
I'm here for hair stuff only.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
This episode is also brought to us by our friends at Hostage Tape. Hostage Tape, I actually have it right here. I'm traveling, and I wouldn't be traveling without it. It's basically, simply put, a high-quality and breathable piece of tape that you put over your mouth to make you breathe through your nose while you're sleeping. Why do you want to breathe through your nose? Well, first and foremost, don't be a mouth breather. Breathing through your nose can get up to 20% more oxygen to your body and to your brain. And I will tell you personally that has drastically improved my quality of sleep. The first time I used hostage tape, of course, I thought it was a little bit weird. I tried it, and I haven't even taken a nap without it since, because it multiplies the quality of my sleep so much. I sleep deeper, I sleep better, I stay asleep, and I thought by putting it on it would make me feel claustrophobic or trapped. It's actually quite the opposite. It's very natural for you to breathe through your nose while you're sleeping, and when you close the bridge, or I'm sorry, what do I say? When you close the tunnel, the mouth is the tunnel. The body just goes, okay, let's take the bridge. And it's effortless, and it's easy, and it's natural. I've actually used a different kind of mouth tape in the past. It smelled like adhesive, it kept me awake, and it hurt to take off. Hostage tape has got it just right. It feels great, even if you have facial hair. Doesn't tear it out, and it doesn't have any sort of adhesive smell, which is awesome. Huge difference. So not all mouth tapes are the same. Hostage tape has figured it out. So give it a try. Get that better sleep. Helps with snoring. In my case, eliminated it entirely. 20% more oxygen, reduces the risk of sleep apnea, and helps with oral hygiene and bad breath. That's true. I got my dentist cleanup recently, and they asked me, do you breathe through your mouth or your nose? And they were telling me, you got to breathe through your nose. It's great for your oral hygiene. So hostage tape is the real deal. Find out why they are the official sleep and breathing aid of the UFC. They have a special offer for weirdos. You can only get this through the show. Get a 6-month supply for $99. That means you save $50 when you go to hostagetape.com/weird. This is the only place Hostage Tape sells a 6-month bundle, so get into it. hostagetape.com/weird. Trust me, once you try it once, you're going to want that 6-month bundle. $99 is a great deal. It's hard to say. hostagetape.com/weird. Try it and sleep better tonight. All right, back to the show.
It's funny, I'm not trying to liken you to a dog. I'm just saying we are, as humans, are much more, it would be easy if I was like, imagine what that's like for your dog. Like you keep shifting him with different owners and different family. Like it must be so confusing. But with people, we're just kind of like, kids are resilient. I'm like, well, that's true. And it can be really hard. It can be both.
Yeah, I have 2 kids now, and I even feel weird leaving them with a babysitter. I don't like to do it, especially with my son, because he's like 10 months old. I'm like, does my son think we've abandoned him right now?
Well, don't get me started. This is a touchy subject, but sleep training, and there's no egg on my face here. If you're letting your kids cry it out, that's fine. We didn't do that because we were like, I read a book that was like, they think wolves are coming to eat them.
Yeah.
And I know you could be like, well, they need to learn that wolves aren't coming to eat them. And I'm like, at 6 months, they need to learn this? Like, I don't know, man.
Well, we struggle with that too. I mean, because to some degree, it's like, if you do it, you do it a couple of nights, you let it, but even now we're like, all right, we'll let it go for 5 minutes.
Right.
If he's asleep in 5 minutes, great. If not, we're going to go get him.
Right.
And it's like,
it's tricky.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like a lot of that stuff is like, it's just me putting myself into my kids. And for all intents and purposes, I mean, my parents were very good and nice people, but I just don't think that they even knew, what you're doing to a kid, like shifting him around all the time. Like even like emotional stuff where like my dad really wanted me to live with him, and my mom wanted me to live with her, and it's like they're almost like putting that on me.
Of course.
So it's like, who can complain about your parents wanting you?
Yeah.
Right? It's not a neglect situation, but it's like a reverse kind of.
Yeah.
And so I think when I got to Charleston, I think, I drank heavy for 9 years, and I think that was me just like being like, oh, I'm finally away from that.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'm just letting it out.
I was just talking to my therapist actually about how many movies there are where the mother is feeding the kid, but there's poison in the food. Like there's slow poison, or that image feels right. The slow, like it's love, but it's tainted somehow, and it's tainted in this minute way. And I think even as well-meaning parents, there's something that the kids have to separate from. It's just what's going on. It's like you're feeding something to make it strong enough
to like defeat you and not need you and like break away. And you want to be like, let's not break away. Let's have this be as mutual as possible.
Oh, yeah.
But really hard. But I think love can be toxic. In fact, as I was saying that, like, we didn't let my daughter cry it out. I'm like, was that for her or was that for me?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I don't know. Because it was, who's it harder on, the parent listening to the crying or the crying? I can't know. I can know it's excruciating for me. And Val and I were like, we're tapping out. We can't do it.
I know, it's so hard.
Yeah. So, but like, who was it for? And time will tell. And I'm sure Generation Alpha, that's what our kids are, will have all sorts of their own things and they'll be talking about it. Sometimes it can be crazy to be like, you know how I feel is I'm like, Val and I are both so present for our baby and we're giving her everything we can, all the things all parents say, every opportunity and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I still know she'll have some issue.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, because it's like, I mean, I talk to people all the time, like that also grew up in trailer parks, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, my mom was a drug addict, my parents were drug addicts, and this was going on in my life. And I'm like, oh, we didn't have any of that. I mean, my mom would party a little bit, but I'm like, for the most part, I mean, they were just like, you know, regular people.
Yeah.
But you know, they had a lot going on. They loved to date. My dad's been married 4 times. You know, they loved to date. You know, and yeah. So it's like I'm very thankful because just a drug problem in my, you know, for me as a kid, like one of my parents having a drug problem would have completely changed that situation.
Yeah.
A whole different. It would have added a whole new element.
But you had your own. What's it like going to a 4th wedding?
Well, I missed the first 2.
Missed the first 2?
Well, because he was, he got
mom.
married to someone before my mom.
Right.
And then
but
he got married to my
You still know it's the 4th wedding.
Well, the 4th wedding was at his house, and to the woman he's still married to, and she's great. She's really great. So they've been married like 25 years now. So
oh, wow.
4 marriages and the 4th one. I mean, it's a strong woman. You know, she really stuck it out.
But is there a feeling of like, who cares? If it's number 4 and you're up there going like forever and I vow, is there like an air of like, come on, guys?
Well, I think everyone that knew my dad is like that. Yeah, don't even do the vows. Let's just wrap it up.
Let's get
here.
to the dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, go ahead and start dividing up your property that you'll lose in a little while.
And tell me about, I'm very interested in your faith. How did it shape? You were raised with it? Was there a very leading question?
Okay.
Were you given it? Then did you sort of lose it? And then did you reclaim it? Or has it been steady the whole time?
I would say in a way it's been steady the whole time. But I wasn't really, like I was, you know, me and my mom would go to church on Christmas and Easter. And my dad, the church that he went to, his parents went to. But most of the time he would either drop me off or me and my stepbrothers would ride our 4-wheeler to church.
Oh, wow.
My dad, he didn't really go that much. He would go sometimes, but it was really us that went. And, and I guess,
What kind of church?
Church of God. That's
Church
what it
of
was. I don't know. Just
It sounds like someone who doesn't want to tell you what church they went to. I don't know. Church of God.
Well, he's from a town called Pennon. It's spelled Penton, but it's pronounced Pennon, and it's just the Pennon Church of God.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
So do you know the denomination?
I don't know, just a small country church.
Yeah,
They got
okay.
an organ and a
Little Baptist-y
and a
kind of
chorus.
feeling?
Yeah, a little Baptist.
Are they drinking? Are they dancing?
Definitely no drinking or dancing.
It's Baptist. Yeah, this is a Baptist church.
Definitely no drinking.
Welcome back to the dumbest game show. Guess that denomination. Let me ask you this. Are you handling snakes?
Yeah.
Oh, Pentecostal.
Nothing like that. Yeah.
Do-do-do-do.
But so then I moved to Charleston and I started going to church and then I would go to church. Baptist church is where I went, and then a few non-denominational here and there. And then I quit drinking in 2012. And I really just started taking it way more seriously, just
Your sobriety.
my sobriety, my, religion. And I don't even go to church really now. I mean, part of it is that I'm gone every Sunday, but another part is, I don't know. I just don't find a church that really believes like I believe, but I
Where is I'm so interested. You're supported and you're safe here. I mean, you're not on the spot.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same way. Val and I have talked. We're like, oh, maybe we could go to church, and then we're like, I just have too many bumpers where I'm just like,
Yeah.
And I love Richard Rohr, who's a Franciscan, and I'm like, is there a church here that teaches what you teach? And he's like, oh, sure there are. And I'm like, there aren't. Like, I just don't think you're as discerning about your own teaching as I am. Maybe is that possible? Because I go and I'm like, even the music will have something in there that I'm like, I don't think that's right. What are we doing?
Yeah, and I don't have the answer. I just think that it's so personal that it's like you believe a certain way, and I read the Bible and I'm like, I pray and I'm like, but then I go to a church and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like how they're doing this, and it's just like, or some person will rub me the wrong way.
Of course.
I remember going to a church one time where they would bring, if you were new, they would bring a microphone to you to introduce yourself. Now I was alone, so they kind of like, didn't really make me do that. But I was thinking at the time, I'm like, I'm probably the only person in here that would have loved this. Like, give me the microphone. give me 5 minutes in here. But they really show, hey, these are new people to the church, and afterwards we're going to ask them to come over to this area, and then you guys come by and welcome them, And this was probably, I'm not good with numbers, but I would say there was 300 people at this church. And so I go over after and hang, and I bet there was 10 people that came to say hey to us. And then, we're there 30 minutes, you get out to the parking lot, and it's completely empty. And I just couldn't help but think, it's like, if this is your religion, this is what you believe, and then these new people have come, you should be so excited that these new people are here that you would just want to meet them and show them some love. But yet you ducked out real fast.
Yeah. You punched the card.
Yeah. And I just, I don't know. So I'm not against people that go to church by any means, but I don't know. I just never find one that I'm like, oh yeah, this feels good.
Yeah, no, I get it. What is your strategy as someone who gets a lot of value out of I'm not going to say the whole Bible. There's parts that I straight up ignore. Huge swaths of the Bible that I'm just disregarding, as I think a lot of us are. What is your strategy for, you say you read the Bible. I'm curious, like, what do you mean? You starting the day with the Psalms? You go into the Gospel? Which Gospel you like?
I mean,
You're not cracking Revelation every morning.
No. I wish I read it every day. I don't read it every day, but I do read, and I
really just mean like how... I was worried that you think I'm like questioning it. No. I mean, like, what is if you are sitting down to read the Bible, it's one of those days.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I just, a lot of times I just, I'll be in a hotel room and I'm like just hanging. Yeah. And I'll read a little bit, and I just, I just look for it as kind of a guide to my own life and how I can live and how I can.
Which book are you going to crack?
Oh, I'll go through the whole thing. I mean, I can say I've read the whole Bible.
You can?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of slugging through 2 Kings, man. Good for you.
Yeah. But, I'll read I actually just read 2 Chronicles, which, and, you just read these stories about, there'll be this king that comes along and he does what they say is right in the sight of the Lord, and then his kingdom is blessed, and everybody seems happy, and they're having a wonderful time. And then the next guy comes along, and it says that he does what is evil in the sight of the Lord, and he builds idols and this and that, and he, and then they lose their kingdom to some war, and everybody is destroyed, and so I'm like, well, how can I live in a way that my kingdom's not getting destroyed, So that's what I try to do. I just try to, and then Jesus is, a really heavy focus on caring about people around you. And so I just try to do that too. I just try to treat everyone really nice, and, I don't always succeed. My sister told me yesterday I could have been a little more compassionate with the girl that was strung out in front of the thing, but I just I got my whole family here, and their dogs jumping everywhere, and I can tell that and I'm like, she kept apologizing, and all I said was, we'll just get it together, and
That's what Jesus said to the storm, by the way.
I know.
Peace, be still. Let's get it together.
Yeah.
Get it together.
I mean, right. And it's like, am I right to do it? Probably not. But in that moment, I was just like, I'm just concerned about my family.
Dusty.
And
you know, I did a show in Vegas recently, and there were a couple moments. It was a corporate, and everybody was drunk. I've mentioned it many times. There were a couple moments where I'm straight up telling people, basically, shut the fuck up, or like being mean.
Yeah.
And I get off stage, and I'm like, I'm about compassion. I'm about patience and forgiveness and grace and peace and all these great things. And you know, it can be tempting to beat myself up for saying to somebody, get it together, when their dog is literally attacking my family.
Yeah.
And you just have to, there's a lot of value in going like, turn that compassion around to you as well. Yes, I would have loved to have been cool in that situation. But then I was with Laura Bites, and she's like, Pete, you're in fight flight. You're in fight flight. Not every situation can be completely overridden and like stepped outside of in real time while it's happening. And I would not to tell you what to do, but I would more celebrate the fact that you wished you had been more compassionate. I wouldn't be like, but you're being flooded with all of these survival hormones, you know?
Well, it's true. And I think, you know, there's so much going on in the country with like drugs. Like you just see more and more like homeless people and so many, and I don't think that they were like, hey, I'm going to do some drugs,
right?
You know, or hey, I'd like to be addicted to drugs, but like, you know, something happens and then people end up in this place. And I feel like there are places that you can go where you go, all right, I'm gonna not do these drugs anymore, and this place will help you. But it's like, if you're on drugs, you don't want to not be on drugs, right? Because they've already like taken hold of you.
That's exactly right. The fight flight in that situation is an addiction.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you do? And I just feel, I get addicted to watching like homeless documentaries on YouTube, and I'm like,
there's homeless documentaries.
Yeah. Well, there's various things, you know, and there's like a street in Philadelphia where it's like, I think it's called Kensington Avenue, where it's like you just see the whole street is just people that are, you know, they're doing the drugs that kind of leave you slumped over or whatever that. And it's just like, it's like the saddest thing. And, you know, it's just like, what do you do, you know? So I don't know, from a religious sense, I mean, I try to do what I can do, you know, like I quit eating pork and shellfish. I read that and I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do that.
Because of the Old Testament?
Yeah. And I haven't done it in like, I don't know, 11, 12 years. I used to tear up some pork. I mean, pork buffets. I worked at a seafood restaurant. Yeah. And I just thought, if, you know, maybe this is just a guide in a sense to be like, this is bad for you.
Right.
Don't eat this.
I remember, of all people, Joel Osteen, who I think is a sweetheart. I know he's made mistakes. I remember there was whatever. I'm not about that. I'm just saying one time I saw him talking about that very thing where he was like, talking about the Old Testament and how confusing it can be, and he says pork and shellfish. He's like, shellfish are bottom dwellers. He's like, they're down there eating poo-poo.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's a wisdom here. And I'm doing his voice terribly. But I remember being like, that's nice. I like that. I like that he's kind of, instead of having it be like superstition or just pure culture, he's like, there's some reason. And dude, don't get me started on pork. Pork is crazy. Especially the way we produce pork these days.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing a good thing to avoid pork.
Well,
they say it's like smoking. It's like, it's a carcinogen.
I live in South Carolina, and South Carolina has so much pork. I mean, I used to tear it up. I mean, I was pulled pork sandwich every day.
My God.
I mean, I loved it. I mean, I was, you know, drinking all night and eating barbecue during the day. And we bought a pig one time and smoked it at a party. I don't know how we're all not dead. But it's like, I saw a picture. I have no way to verify if this is true other than to do the test myself. But it showed 2 aquariums, and one aquarium was really cloudy water and the other aquarium was really clear water. And it said the only difference in between these is the one with clear water has oysters in it. So it's filtering and cleaning the water. And I thought, you know, what if none of us ate shellfish? And then so there were no fish, like no one was getting shrimp and oysters.
The oysters in there.
How clean might the oceans be? I mean, it could be really great.
It's like you went in my hot tub and you're eating the filter.
Yeah.
No, I never even thought about that.
And catfish is also another one. Like, it was big growing up. Everybody wanted to eat catfish, but it's it's just a filter for the ponds and streams too. And
wow.
so it's like,
there's a wisdom that we're ignoring.
Yeah.
We'll ignore a lot of things if it's delicious.
And and I always tell people, I'm like, you could do the same thing to beef that you do to pork, and it would be really delicious too. But beef's more expensive, so it's like it's not gonna be as cheap to have yourself some pulled beef sandwiches out here.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So what do you think about the afterlife? You think when you die, is there more?
Well, I think so. I mean, it's like, I feel like sometimes I get into this idea, like I'm thinking about our bodies and like just this idea that we're just these things that like we can move our hands and we can talk and without even really thinking about it. You can just, and it's like,
no, this is a miracle. Move. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And nobody cares.
Yeah, it's like, and if that is happening, like, so all this work that goes into this for us to just like, I don't know, eat food and order Amazon, and then we die and we go into the grave, and then that's what happens.
Yeah.
I just think there does have to be more. This like, and we're like these, I don't know, I think spiritual beings that will move on. I mean, whether it's heaven or I don't know, maybe there is reincarnation. I don't really believe in reincarnation, but maybe, but it's like, I don't know. I just think it's so wild. I mean, like, it feels like dogs have a little bit of it, but animals in general, I feel like there's something about animals where it's like, obviously don't be mean to animals, but I feel like humans have this different thing, right? Where we're like, this ability to talk. I mean, what is even hearing? Sometimes I think about that. Like, I say something out loud and it goes into my ear, and now I'm like, I know what you've said, and it takes zero time to process it.
Yeah. No, now you're on the podcast, and it's insane. And if you ask, when we ask science what's going on, especially the ear, it's crazy. There's literally a crystal in there.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of water that if you don't have in there, it won't work. If the crystal gets misaligned, it won't work.
I get vertigo sometimes now,
Exactly,
so I learned about the crystal.
That's right, the crystal and vertigo. I've said this a million, but I'm going to say it to you. It's so complicated and stupid. I think it's designed to bore you.
Yeah.
It's like I start talking about a crystal and a level of water, and people are like, ugh. It's like, it feels like a way to hide. So the Upanishads, which means it's the end of the Vedas. It's the end of knowledge. It's an Indian text. They say it's not what the ear can hear. It's that whereby the ear can hear. Know that to be the eternal. I know it has the word whereby. You can not that I think you don't understand me, but it's not that your ear, it's not what you hear, it's that you can hear.
Oh, yes.
That's what it's saying.
Yes.
It's not what you see, it's that you can see. And it's also not what you think. Dude, forget about hearing. How are you hearing your thoughts? And what is it that's separate from your thought that is hearing it? Your thought appears like watercolor underwater. It appears and then it evaporates. But nothing of you was added to or taken away. You are a spacious field of awareness wherein a feeling emerges like a jellyfish, a thought, a sensation, a sound. It's all appearing in this field, and that's what you really are.
And I mean, it's so wild. I mean, even the idea of like retroactive embarrassment. Like, you can remember something you did years ago and it still make you cringe a little bit.
That's crazy, yes.
Or remember, sad, I feel like makes a little more sense to remember something that's sad and you be sad. But like the embarrassment to remember something and go, oh, what an idiot. I mean, I feel like that people will say the thing of like, oh, you've changed, and they say it in a negative way. But I think we should all be changing all the time to grow. And it's like, I feel like I've been so many people. When I quit drinking, like, someone told me this, that when you start getting wasted, you stop maturing.
Oh, wow.
So you get trapped.
Yeah, arrested development.
Yes.
You hit pause.
Yes. So when I stopped drinking, it's like it's like I matured really fast
Yeah.
in a way, like, and I don't know, and it's like all of this stuff is just. It's just so wild that I can look back on drinking stories and be embarrassed. And it's just like everything about the body amazes me. I make fun of doctors a lot of times because I go to the doctor and I'll be like, oh, I'm having this pain here. And they never know. No one ever knows. They do blood tests. And it's like, is it their fault? Or is it just like they're really like.
It's incredible that they know anything.
Yeah.
Well, there's in neuroscience, when it comes to the like fundamentals of the brain, like just the basic mechanics of what we're talking about, it's the hard problem of consciousness. They'll say we know less than 1% of what the brain is doing. And there's a lot of my favorite scientists are the ones that incorporate that humility. You don't have to ascribe it to God, because I don't think that matters. You can ascribe it to, I don't know, or wow, what is happening? It can be awe, it can be wonder, it can be mystery, it doesn't matter. Or you could call it God. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's nice to see people like fascinated by things and being like, oh, this is amazing, as opposed to pretending as if they know everything.
Right.
But even like teeth, I'd learned this, that, and I don't know if it's true. You know, you read things and you have no way to know if anything's true, but the teeth have nerves in them. So when you start to chew food, all these things can send signals to your stomach. You have,
digest.
You have glands, you have saliva, and all of it starts to let your body know what kind of food you're eating.
Yeah.
So that it can get ready to digest. That's why it's like chewing more really helps with digestion.
Right.
But when you have a root canal, depending on what tooth you have that pulled out of, it can cause you problems in digestion or in different parts of the body. And even leaving a tooth in your mouth that has had that nerve removed is like dead tissue. So then your body is like, we need to get rid of this dead tissue. There's never any other time where you like kill something in your body and then leave it in there.
Wow.
You know, so it's like really bad for your health. Now, I mean, if there's a dentist listening, I'm sure they, you know.
This is making the argument, take it out, get the tooth out.
Yeah, have the tooth pulled. Like I went to a holistic dentist, and that's what they did. I had a root canal done years ago, and they pulled the tooth and put in an implant, and you know, and you know,
that makes sense.
Maybe they're just making money too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right. But I bought into it.
Yeah.
But I went to a regular dentist. I had some real problems with my front teeth. Like I had a little black coming out of the corner, and my teeth were, you know, they were about to get real Alabama looking in here. And this dentist was like, "You're going to need to get root canals on all of these teeth." And I just thought, that doesn't seem right. I don't feel like I need to do that. So I found a holistic dentist, and I actually just wanted to get mercury fillings removed.
I had that. Yeah, I did that.
And the lady goes, we can definitely do that. But she goes, you got some real issues with your front teeth that we need to address first. So they were able to, you know, kind of grind the cavity away and do, you know, veneers, if you will, so that I would not have, but they didn't do root canals. They didn't have to do that. So all my teeth are still alive. I don't know if you needed a long dentistry rant here, but
I actually really that piqued my interest quite a bit, and I'm like, I hope people listening are getting a lot of value out of that, because we all have teeth. I think that was deeply relatable and one of my favorite parts. So please don't have later shame about that moment.
Okay.
And I'm also you caught me thinking. Have you ever seen a ghost? You seem like a guy who's definitely seen a ghost.
Well, you know, I used to. When I was a kid, I used to pray all the time that I would not see ghosts. I'd seen Unsolved Mysteries so much, I was so terrified.
I know. To think he was just on a sound stage with smoke machines,
yeah, I know.
And a police car.
I know.
Like he wasn't even on a street. That would have really helped me calm down if I could have seen them shooting that on a sound stage.
But I will say, I was, you know, for a long time I was smoking weed. I've not smoked weed in a few months now. I didn't really be like, I wasn't really like, I'm about to quit this, but I just kind of did, and I haven't done it in a few months. But years ago, I was living in this old house, and it was like built in the 1800s, and me and my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but wife, were in bed. I was a little high. I always like to tell people that just for full disclosure.
Yeah.
I was a little high, and we were laying in bed, and it felt like I heard the door click, like someone had come in. Now, we had a lot of roommates, And so I
don't like this.
I opened my eyes, and at the end of the bed, it seemed like there was like a person, but almost just like a silhouette of them.
Yeah.
And it was so real that I thought like maybe my roommate had come in to tell me something, which had never happened. But then like reality and I jumped back in bed like that, and then it was gone. And and then I was watching some YouTube video the other day, and they were talking about shadow people, and they described what I saw, and I had to turn it off. I was in a hotel alone. I was like, I can't do it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I was working in Winnipeg and I was alone and I was starting to get depressed, and then there was a dispensary. None of this is necessary, but let's just say old Holmesy went into what I look like when I'm depressed is like, let's play video games and let's get stoned. And that's what I was doing. Had all these days off. And then one day I got real, like edibles and smoking, like both.
Yeah.
Like, that's just dumb. Like got stoned, kind of like sobered up, got stoned again. Just a bullshit day. The kind of day when I'm 90, or 80, whatever. Let's say I hope I make it to 90s.
Yeah.
I'm in my 90s. Actually, with AI and everything, we probably will.
Hey, get us a Neuralink.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the guy who made the car that can't brake.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird. Anyway, I went to bed and I opened my eyes. And there was like just a figure by the bed, and it scared the shit out of me. And it immediately disappeared.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was like, oh my God, you finally have one of your. But the problem is, I'm not discrediting yours, because who's to say maybe being stoned didn't kind of like open you up to that sort of sensitivity? Yeah. But it was fucking. It was a little girl. It was like a little girl in a dress, just exactly what you don't want.
Oh, that's what you...
I rolled over and I opened my eyes and it was standing by the bed, and I was just like... But the way that my body responded... Because I had earplugs in. Because it was on a street, whatever. And my heart was like... Boom, 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 boom. Like it was... Let's put it this way. My body is like, we definitely saw a ghost. My mind is like, I don't know. But my body was like, dude, I know what imagining is, and that wasn't imagining. Terrifying.
Yeah.
And let's just say I didn't smoke weed the next month. Like I was just like, that's enough of that.
Well, it's like...
Goodbye.
It's like, if we have these, if we have these spirits in us, whatever makes us be able to do what we can do, it's like... and the Bible does talk about this is a spiritual realm that we're in, right? And it's like at times there was like, I couldn't tell you where it's at, but it's in the Old Testament where, they're about to go fight an army and they're like, we don't have a lot of people. And they're like, well, the guy prays that God would reveal to show him what is out there. And he kind of opens the veil, and the guy can see that there's a spiritual army that's going to go before them. Oh. It's like, who knows what's going on? Like, we live in the physical realm. Like, what if there is a spiritual realm and we're just out here, doing our day-to-day lives, and we're so busy that we don't have any time to, really stop and, see what's going on.
I just listened to a 6-hour podcast, all of it, 6 hours, about the remote viewer for the FBI. And he was just doing remote viewing, just like spying on the Russians by leaving his body. And this dude seemed like the most down-to-earth, maybe it's because you're Southern, but like I would have said like a good old boy, just kind of like a regular... kind of like a beer-swilling dude who just happened to get into a weird program. He says everyone's psychic, anyone can learn how to do it, mastered it, and then spent his entire career. But he was like the most lucid person I had ever heard talking, and he was just like, oh yeah, I remote viewed Mars in the year 1 million BC. And I'm like, And it was really interesting. And the reason I bring this guy up is there's a lot of people that are like, Dusty, of course it's that kind of place. Yeah. And of course we're just going around, whistling in the dark because it's so fucking weird to be alive. Yeah. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, and the Bible will talk about things like that too, like psychics and, maybe uses different names, seers and witchcraft. And it doesn't say those things aren't real, So it's like, it says, to not mess around with them, right? But it doesn't say they're not real.
Right.
You know, and there was like even that thing where King Saul, used a seer, I guess, to
No, I remember this.
Bring back the spirit of who's the guy? Samuel?
Yeah.
And then Samuel was like, it seemed to freak Samuel out that he brought him back from the dead. He was like, what are you doing? How did you do this?
Yeah.
You know?
I had that bit we did on Crashing where I was like, Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. But what if Lazarus didn't want to be raised from the dead? What if he was like, I have debt?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, fuck, man. This got me out of a relationship I didn't know how to end. Just yeah. Well, that's very, very interesting stuff. I think you're fantastic. Let me just look at my notes real quick before I.
This water for
That's
me.
for you, bro. That pineapple Vita Coco is also for you.
Okay.
I did want to ask you this. What do people get wrong about living in a trailer park? You say I live in a trailer park. What is the mistake? You know, I hear that. I'm like, what are you doing all day? Finding a dead body in the creek? You know,
Yeah.
there's assumptions people jump to.
Well, that kind of is the thing, I think, is people think that everybody in a trailer park is just like hillbillies, just hanging out, drinking, being redneck, doing drugs.
Yeah, we're seeing like a moon, like 3 X's on a jug.
Oh, yeah.
And you're drinking it with your elbow.
And that for sure does exist. You know?
The Bible doesn't say it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it exists, but it's like, yeah, a lot of people are, you know, they get divorced and they're just, you know, because like the trailer park we lived in.
Mean the market for trailer park is kind of like Milhouse's dad on The Simpsons? It's like, oh, something went goofy. I'm going to go there while I get reestablished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like the trailer park that I lived in. We lived in for, 12 years. You know, lots of people came and went. You know, like we owned the trailer and rented the lot, but there were trailers for rent. So people would come, they would live for a few months, and then they would be off to somewhere else. Not always a better place, I'm sure, but a lot, you know, people would come and go. And I just think that in Auburn, I grew up in a town called Opelika, which is right next to Auburn University, you know, SEC school. And it's like there's a lot of trailer parks where college students live. Like it'll be like, you know, instead of living in an apartment complex, you live in this trailer park, and it's all college students, great parties, a lot of fun. And I think that's the thing that people get wrong, that it's just all hillbillies when it's just.
It's like what I'm hearing you say is like, is there some privilege in looking down? It's like, no, these are affordable, good solutions for college kids, or maybe somebody that's bouncing back from something, or maybe just people that don't want to or can't. Maybe. How do you say it? But like it's an affordable, good place to live.
Yeah, like when we moved out when I was 14, my sister moved into that trailer, and then she traded the trailer in like it's a car on another trailer. And I went to the place she traded it into, and they sold it to me for $1,000. They had never even moved it. It's still in the trailer park, so I bought it for $1,000, and I lived in it for a few years before I moved to Charleston. And my lot rent was $120. So I had and that included water. So I had a 2-bedroom, 1-bath trailer, basically house, that I lived in and partied in for a couple of years for $120 a month. And it was great. It was like, you know, like an apartment, I probably would have gotten arrested several times doing what we were doing. But I had this trailer where, you know, people in the trailer park, they don't really want to call the cops either.
Yeah.
You know, the trailer park I lived in was a little shady, I think. And, you know, at the time I was an adult, I mean, I was adding to the shadiness. You know, I was bringing in a lot of characters, you know.
It was contributing to the shadiness.
Yeah.
And, okay, that's really interesting. So it was a little wild. I'm interested in how did you get sober and what incited that?
Well, I was drinking, you know, pretty heavy, but I would always be kind of aware of like this, taking a sober day. Like we would be partying, you know, basically every day, but I would always be like, all right, 1 day a week at least I'm gonna not drink.
Yeah.
And I think that when I finally did quit, that kept me from having some kind of withdrawal. Because I talk to people all the time that they quit cold turkey, and they say they have these episodes where they have hallucinations and
For booze?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Withdrawals, and I'm like, I never had any of that, and I was drinking pretty heavy for 9 years, but I just started to feel real bad. I had gained a lot of weight. My face was real puffy. My stomach was real big, and I was smoking a lot of cigarettes, and I just felt awful. And I was like, the day I quit, I was like trying to hit a cigarette, and like I didn't even have the lung power to pull the cigarette, and I was like, what am I doing?
Wow.
And then I just was like, I'm going to take a break from drinking, and then I just never drank again.
Oh, wow. I don't think I'll ever forget that. That's never happened to me.
Yeah.
But the image of trying to suck in a cigarette and that being too much of an ask
Yeah, it
is
was
really
like-
powerful.
Yeah, it was like, and I remember I just threw that out, and I still had, I was still like addicted to nicotine. So I used to dip. I would kind of alternate. I've made jokes about this, but I would smoke till my lungs hurt, and then I would dip while my lungs healed. Oh my God. And then, because that's the kind of destructive things that I think I get into when I'm drinking is I'm just like pounding it on. Like I listen to too much country music, and I'm like, just the idea of being a complete alcoholic who smokes too much is like almost appealing to me.
Yeah, it's romantic.
So that's what I would do to myself. But I dipped for like 2 days, and then somehow, I don't know, I just feel like it was all like, I feel like God was like telling me that I was like, all right, you're done now. That's how I reason with it, because the dipping it seemed to overload me in a way. I remember driving in my car dipping, which was like my favorite thing. And I just seemed to like slump down in the car. I got so heavy. I just feel like every bump I was riding over, I could really just feel it. And so I just dumped the can out, and then I never did it again. Now I get into cigars now. I love cigars, but I took a break from everything for a year. But for me with drinking, I'm like, as long as I never like do it again, I think I'll be totally fine.
I don't know why that made me laugh. As long as I just never do it again, I'll be okay.
Right. It seems so simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I think people, they'll quit for
that's not for you.
Yeah, they'll quit for a period of time, and then they'll go, all right, I know I can quit now.
Yeah.
I can quit anytime I want. I've proved that I can quit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drink again. I like drinking, and I know I can quit. And then once you invite it back in, it becomes that much harder to quit.
Yep.
I've been to some AA meetings. I didn't use AA, but I have been in there. I've talked. I've listened to people talk. And that seems to be, I read the big blue book from AA, and it's like, that seems to be the case. Like, I think they give you when you quit drinking and go to AA, they give you a chip for coming. And then they give you a 30-day chip for making it 30 days. And then they give you a 60-day chip, because that's when they say at 2 months is when people start to tell themselves, oh, okay, I've quit now. So I can drink now because I know I can quit.
So they want to market and get ahead of that.
Yeah. And then it comes back on so heavy after that.
Yeah, no, I did that a few times too.
Yeah?
Quit for a month or something.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I think it's so absurd, not to be too judgmental, but I see something afoot with like Sober October or whatever, and I'm just like, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
It's like our culture loves binging and purging.
Oh, yeah.
It's built into the calendar with New Year's, with you stop at New Year's, and then that's January, February. March is Patty's Day. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Or even Thanksgiving. It's like there's these gorging periods. We love it. We want to get fucking addicted and enthralled and trapped. And I'm like, whenever I see people like, it just seems a little not very self-aware when a bunch of like rip-roaring party guys are like, Sober October. I'm like, maybe fucking just sober. I don't know.
Yeah.
I am judging. I'm being a judge.
Well, I mean, I always try, I talk a lot, like if you, like on my Netflix special, I talk about cigarettes and I talk about drinking and I talk about how great it is and how fun it is. And I do say that I quit, but I mean, that is kind of the duality of like, of people, but I think of me too. It's like smoking cigarettes is a blast. I mean, I love it. I think it's so great. But the moment I do it, I'm like, oh, I want to do this all the time now. And every
Black and
opportunity,
white.
I'm like, oh, I'd love to smoke again.
Yeah.
And I do it with cigars. I mean, I can go months without having a cigar, and the moment I have one, I'm like, oh, why have I not been doing this every day?
Yeah.
And drinking is the same way. It's like every activity for me was like, oh, you see an old friend, you're like, oh, let's go get a drink.
Yeah.
After work, you're like, let's get a drink. Everything is let's get a drink.
Yeah.
So I just, I do love them, and they're so fun. But and also I know people in my audience are going to be drinking, and I don't want to be, coming down on the audience.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you can drink and you can handle it, by all means, do it. I don't care.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
But if you can, I know people that have a beer and they go, that was good. Now I'm going to go home.
I hear everything you're saying because I do the same thing, because I'm aware that comedy clubs are places where people are drinking. But if you and I made twice as much money for disparaging drinking, we would just start disparaging drinking.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not calling
maybe.
bullshit on you. I'm calling bullshit. I'm putting the system on
No,
trial.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. No,
but I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't need. I'm back to being a vegan. Did I tell you? I'm back being vegan. And
All right.
so I'm on stage. I know I'm watching people eating chicken fingers. You can't be like, that thing had a mother. You
Yeah.
can't do that. But if I would make more money if I would do that, of course I would do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way in which we're sort of sex
Well,
workers.
yeah, I mean, that could be true too. I mean, it's like I'm not anti-meat, but I do think because I love meat, but I think as a culture, we're like, the way it's all done is all bad.
I agree.
Yeah,
you can be pro meat and still be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm anti-factory farms.
Yeah.
And I wish, and I'm sure there is a way. I don't know what it is, but I wish there was a way that we could all just have our own cows, and I could milk my own cow and then raise a cow each year and slaughter it, and me do it myself. That way, I appreciate the death of the cow.
There you go. I think that's way closer to the way it should be. I've been thinking a lot about a friend of mine who I relate to, meaning I'm not judging him. He eats a lot of meat, and we were both talking about how sad it is when you catch a mouse on a glue trap. It's like the saddest thing.
Oh yeah,
It's so sad.
yeah.
So I think we're having this, like, we are compassionate. We do care, and we just don't know what to do. I think AI is good. I'm not just ringing the AI bell and outsourcing the solution, but I think food synthesizing. I think our kids are going to be synthesizing food. I think it's all over. I definitely think they're going to be looking back on our time and being like, that was the Stone Age. And then they're going to beep, boop, boop.
Well, something's coming for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because AI is like growing pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, my wife reads The New Yorker, and they're talking about, how even people that helped create AI are like worried that because they're like, it's like learning on its own a lot faster than we ever thought possible. And once AI learns past us, then, what do we do then?
It's only the story we've told ourselves for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It used to be like a genie or like a god, and now it's this computer.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking weird time to be alive, man. It really is.
Yeah.
You want to hear what I tell myself to comfort myself? I'm like, it will be 1/1,000,000th of a % for it to just take care of us. You know what I mean? Like the ration of it, it's like, let's say it has its own agendas and its own things that it wants to do. It would be like infinitesimal to be like, and we can solve your problems. I like to think of this thing and it splits itself off and it makes this sort of concierge that can deal with this reality while it does whatever the fuck it wants to do.
Yeah, maybe.
And also what it wants to do is an interesting question, because we always think will want to do what we want to do, but why will it care about food, sex, land, power? I don't think it'll whatever it'll be, it's not going to be what we think it is, and it's not going to be what we would do.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree.
it is a scary thing. It's like, I remember, just a few years ago, I was like, I would beg my buddy to make a poster for my show. I'd be like, hey, can you make a poster for us?
Yeah.
He was a good artist. And now you can just type in a few things and you have a poster better than he could ever create.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
And this sucks, but I think it will. I think in the future we'll be watching the State of the Union, and you can second screen an AI that's making a comedy thing about it in real time.
Oh,
like the
yeah.
idea of waiting for Saturday Night Live to see the commentary, I think that'll be absurd. I think it'll be like, which comedian would you like to riff in real time? The thought of like going on Twitter to see what Chris Rock said will be absurd. You'll just be like, put Chris Rock in my room and have him riff on the State of the Union while it's happening.
And I think there was some talk about that, like this idea of regulation, like if they are going to create a Dusty Slay riffing about the State of the Union, how do I get money off them using my likeness?
Yeah. No, that's the big choice I think is going to come. And if I had to predict it, we'll all be offered, let's say we're all offered a generous amount of money to sign your likeness, and everyone's doing it because they're like, you can't win. The way that I see that going is there'll be a few holdouts. I don't know how that goes, though. Are the holdouts right, or are they wrong?
And if you're holding out, are they still not using it? I mean, what would you be able to do?
I also, you're onto something there. One of the things I think AI will do, the concept of privacy will be completely illogical.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to be like, show me my father's texts.
Oh, yeah.
It'll just be like, of course. Here you go.
Yeah, it's so wild.
It'll just be like over. It'll be a complete synthesis of everything that's ever been.
I think one of the great things, is that like if you were to get caught doing something, you go, oh, AI is so good now.
I think that's already happening.
That's not me.
I mean, I think I definitely can see Trump being like, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I mean, if that Billy Bush thing came out, the grab pussy thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now you could say that's AI.
Oh, yeah.
I just went to Howie Mandel's studio and they showed me a William Shatner hologram that had AI hooked up to it. And we asked it, what do you think of Pete Holmes? I didn't ask it that. That's what it asked. It was like, Pete Holmes, it was William Shatner. His body, his mouth going, Pete Holmes is a comedian. And he started talking about it. And you could be like, do you like him? And he's like, I'm not that familiar with his work, but I'm excited to check it out. Like it wasn't just, it was crazy.
Good that he didn't say anything negative. That'd be weird.
I did get a little nervous.
It's like, oh, you brought me here to have William Shatner tell me bad things about myself.
And then it showed me Howie Mandel was like, you can talk and it'll translate into Japanese in your voice and make the lip match. So it showed Howie Mandel, and I was like, you learned that in Japanese? And he was like, I didn't say anything. I said that in English, and it translated it and changed my mouth. And I was like, all right, we're like post-truth. Like, it used to be seeing was believing, or at least hearing was believing. We're already in a place where if Billy Bush grab pussy thing came out, you could be like, this is the lefties. They're trying to disparage my character. That might have been the last great gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-AI excuse. And it's a valid excuse.
Yeah.
Right? You think I said grab them by the pussy?
Right.
That's insane.
Because if
that's something Bill Maher wrote.
I mean, if we have the technology we have, what does, a government agency have? I mean, they got to have better than what we have.
And I think that's another issue is the
Howie Mandel's
democratization.
very rich, I'm sure. So I'm sure he has some of the best stuff, but it's like, what does this CIA have?
The CIA is like, we got to be better than Mandel.
Right.
No deal. Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's valid. Well, buddy, you've been awesome. I really loved, sorry that we moved the time so many times. I think you're so funny.
Thank you.
Everybody needs to check out your Netflix special out now. What is the name of it? Workin Man.
Workin Man.
And I also recommend your album. It was a hoot and a half.
Thank you. Yeah, I got an album called Making That Fudge and Son of a Ditch. Son of a Ditch is the one that still sounds more like me. Making That Fudge, it was a little pre-Working the Road.
Yeah.
So that's an early
It's still
taste.
a great title.
Yeah, thank
Making
you.
That Fudge.
Thank you.
Do you have a hardest laugh story? Is there a time in your life where you laughed really, really hard? I always like to say it doesn't have to be a good story. Usually somebody fell. Church going, man. So many of the great answers are like in church, you're not supposed to laugh, some situation like that. Maybe you were on drugs.
Well, I used to, and I still do. I do, I do the Nate Land podcast. We had a moment recently where we laughed, we laughed so hard at a guy mispronouncing a word, and I don't know. But when I was in 7th and 8th grade, we had the same teacher. We had multiple classes, but me and a group of friends, we got like the teacher moved up from 7th to 8th grade the next year.
So you had the same guy 2 years ago?
Yeah, and he already was fed up with us in 7th grade. And we, he had this huge desk, and his name was Mr. Spicer, and we called him Spoo, like behind his back, because there was a joke about him that said he was always jerking it behind his desk, you know? And so we called him Spoo, and, you know, we were just, you know, idiot kids.
Yeah.
And one day, this guy, Quentin, he asked Mr. Spicer, did he have some lotion he could borrow? And he pulled out this big bottle of like pump handle lotion, and we lost it. I mean, because Quentin was a black guy, you know, and there, you know, he's getting ashy, and he's like, I need some lotion, but. So he knew that Mr. Spicer would like accommodate.
Yes.
But we just never saw the big bottle of pump handle lotion coming.
In a teacher already called Spoo.
Yeah, and when he put that on the desk, I mean, we lost it. I mean,
Wow.
we could not handle ourselves.
That took my breath away.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
did he know why you were laughing?
I don't know. I know he did not like us, and he was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
God, I think sometimes now that I'm older, I think about what a shit I was in junior high. Oh, you texted me the review? Dusty, we're trying to build the show. We're trying to get more people to listen, which we haven't actively done in a while. Here's Katie. So we're reading reviews. When people like and review the show on iTunes, we'll read some just to encourage people to do it because it means a lot. This is from Mikey Fresh. He wrote, learning and laughter, whether it's riffing, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, comedy, art, or whatever. Pete Holmes is an amazing host. Oh, thank you. They're not always that
You
on
are
the
a great
nose.
host, though.
Oh, I really appreciate it.
I've had a great time
That's
here.
really nice, Dusty. I love talking to you. Interviewing fascinating guests.
All
That's
right.
you.
This is a review before me. But,
Yeah, but still, from a variety of backgrounds, it's a hub of interesting people discussing anything from sex, art, comedy, God, and anything in between. I've learned so much from Pete and his guests. That means so much, Mikey Fresh. Please, everybody, leave us a 5-star review. And I like to say, if you like this chat with Dusty, just text it to one friend. If everybody did that,
Yeah.
That's one of those idiots. If everybody gave me $1.
Yeah, that is true, though, right?
But it's true. This isn't about money. It's not about ad sales. It's about this. The show matters so much to me. And if you like it, let's help other people find it.
Yeah, and let us know what you thought about the dental portion.
Honestly, man, I'll never forget that a root canal needs to be taken out.
All right. Well,
I'll
good.
never
I appreciate
forget
that.
But I'm already in that take my fillings out category. So
Yes.
that's worth a Google too.
Yes.
Why you shouldn't have mercury in your
That's
mouth.
true. That is true.
You know, mercury, the thing that drives you insane. It literally does.
Yeah. I mean,
Mad as a Hatter was because there was mercury in the hats and we're just putting it in our mouths. What the fuck? Anyway, welcome to a different podcast.
yeah. I mean, it is wild, though.
It is wild. Dusty, thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Would you say keep it crispy?
All right.
Do it in your barefoot overall draw.
Oh, okay. All right.
Your
well,
overdraw.
Keep it crispy, y'all.
Thank you for just immediately accommodating. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You